Dave, thanks for sitting down with me today. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me, Shawn.
Dave, we are down here at the American Seed Trade Association meetings in Chicago, and my first question for you is, my take is that Canada has a incredibly solid reputation internationally. Can you talk a little bit about how from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think Canada's always been able to punch above our weight, whether it's agriculture, trade, anything. I think Canada's got that reputation as being a bridger of gaps and kind of a group that can bring multiple voices together. So I think that to the Canadian Seed Trade Association, I think Canada's reputation is excellent internationally. I think we're heavily involved with the International Seed Federation. One of our board members, Ellen Sperry, sits on the ISF board. We're heavily involved with the Seed Association of the Americas, and Scott Horner, one of past president of CSTA, just became their new chair. And with the American Seed Trade Association, where we're 2,700 of us are all in Chicago this week. Wayne Gale, a past president and current board member, again, will be the first ever Canadian chair of ASTA in 2020. So I think it really speaks to Canadians in the seed industry take a leadership position internationally, and it's sort of the norm these days. And
there's a great collaborative relationship with ASTA down here, isn't there? Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the Better Seed, Better Life?
Absolutely. So ASTA developed a program called Better Seed, Better Life, which is really about communicating the seed industry's message to the public. And it's a sort of our little portion of the public trust sort of debate on the seed side, and just communicating that 9 to 10 bites of food around the world start planting with seed. But most folks don't know that. So ASTA, under Andy's leadership, was willing to open up that to us, and they did a lot of public polling and research. And we just launched our video last week at CSTA's semi-annual meeting. And again, thanks to Issues Inc. for that help putting that video together. And Kim Saber, and our communications coordinator, did an excellent job. And I think ASTA and CSTA had never been closer. I was referred to today as a Canadian Andy Levine, so I take that as a compliment. Nice. I don't know how Andy takes that, but we've got a fantastic working relationship, and we do our best to touch base whenever we can. But we get together with the ASTA staff a few times a year for sure.
Perfect. And so you've spent the last couple of days down here in Chicago. What kind of seems to be the biggest topic that you're hearing emulate from these halls?
Well, I think there's a lot to look forward to and a lot to be optimistic about, but there's definitely concerns about our continued ability to do business and engage in modern agriculture, whether it's presentations yesterday at the Seed Treatment and Environment Committee around regulations regarding pesticides, or discussions around how plant breeding innovation will be regulated. But I think really we're kind of a quote of past presidents of CSTAs are dangerously close to being in the right place at the right time, and I think you feel that excitement. And I think the reason that all of us, and this is meeting season, that 2,700 people are here at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Chicago, is because we're optimistic. And while there's things to be overcome, I think that there's more to look forward to than there is to be concerned about.
Nice, excellent, well said. So I'm going to change gears a little bit now. Small little topic, seed synergy.
Yeah, very small topic.
So there's lots going on.
Yeah.
Can you just give me your nickel version of
Sure.
kind of where we're at?
So I guess we just wrapped up phase one, which is essentially getting to the development of a green paper, which has some proposals around what we think a next generation seed system should look like for Canada. And the 6 organizations have come together and gotten to that point. It's kind of as far as executive directors can take it. And now it's out for public consumption, feedback from our membership, and feedback from the broader value chain. So what we're doing now is we'll be starting regional meetings in January and February across the province, across the country, in almost every province, to get that feedback. And phase 2 is really, we're looking at March 2018 to have a white paper, which our boards can actually sink their teeth into and endorse, hopefully. And that'll be essentially the document that we'll use as our advocacy strategy to start talking to the government concretely about what we need in the next generation seed system. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to engage. Seedsynergy.net will be live soon for feedback and comments. And I think that the 6 executive directors have worked really closely together. And I think the only real change since Shawn, you and I sat down in Halifax is that my board has signaled that in February when we meet, we're going to talk about the governance, the structure sort of component of it. But yeah, lots to do, but we've got support from the federal government, and I think we've got support for some other groups so far that really like the initiative.
Nice. So hopefully you don't kick me under the table for this one, Dave, but some of these groups haven't necessarily always been on the same page.
Absolutely.
Would that be safe to
Absolutely,
say?
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing now is the level of collaboration is literally through the roof. and we're genuinely seeing these groups agreeing on topics that they haven't agreed on in the past.
Absolutely.
Are boards really coming together now?
I think they are. I think that coming into this with the kind of the ethos that was built around that executive director table is regardless of where Seed Synergy goes, that level of collaboration, excuse me, and trust has never been there the way it is, and the level of information sharing and the volume of emails I received from the 5 other executive directors is at times staggering. But there were definitely times where some organizations within the Seed Synergy group, we would go to government and be in the same meeting and disagree. That doesn't happen anymore. And I think that it's really a testament to our boards being very proactive, and then the executive directors really sort of pulling up their socks and doing the work and building that trust.
And so now, what's the next step? What should our audience be looking for from a?
Well, we'd be looking for feedback currently on the green paper, and because this, and with the caveat that the green paper doesn't represent our boards of directors, they've not endorsed this. We got to the point where we recognized if we want to get something out the door, we can't have all 6 boards weigh in a short period of time. So. What you should look for is the regional sessions, which will be announcing coming out. We'll be inviting folks to that, get comments and feedback on the green paper, and then ultimately we'll be pitching the white paper to our respective boards. And once approved, that is going to be the 6 associations. That's going to be our marching orders to government, saying this is what we want, this is what we need, and this is what we expect from the next generation system.
Where do you see that going? I mean, I'm not asking you to look into necessarily a crystal ball, but what do you think? Where are we headed?
Well, I think that the Seed Synergy piece will be part of our input to the Seeds regulations modernization through CFIA, but I think we haven't limited ourselves to that. So I think what we're looking at is probably an iterative approach where there's some things that around how you regulate plant breeding innovation probably won't require regulatory change. Maybe some guidance documents drafted for CFIA and Health Canada. And there's other things that might be regulatory change and CFIA's agenda that should be done by 2019. But there's some things that might require legislative changes. So I don't see Seed Synergy as a document you drop on a desk and it all happens at once. I think it's iterative, and while it's transformational, if you look at it as one piece, it's going to be over a number of years. So I think Seed Synergy is going to be on all of our agendas and work plans going forward. And then the big conversation is around how do we govern ourselves, and I think that's a conversation that the executive directors and our boards are going to, Q2 2018 are going to really start digging into that one as well.
I think one of the temptations for industry has been, in industry, I mean the bigger seed industry, has been to talk governance, to talk structure, to talk those pieces in advance. And I think the group has done a great job of maintaining a focus on function.
Yeah.
What do we need? What things do we need to think about? Do we need to put into place before we even get to that point of talking?
Well, it's a cliche, but form follows function. And what we realized pretty quickly is that if you have that forum conversation the Monday morning at 9 a.m., you talk about it until Monday evening, and then you only got. So the way we sort of schedule things is let's talk about forum, but the functions are the most important. There are some timelines associated with getting that together, and I think expectations are high for what we come out with. So we intentionally sort of put forum as the last agenda item, knowing that we all got flights to catch. So we have that important discussion, but elephant in the room, it can dominate the conversation, and we won't focus on what we need to get done. So I think it's an important conversation to have, and we're getting to that point where we need to start seriously having that conversation. But it's been getting that green paper out the door, and I think if we'd focused too much on form, we probably wouldn't be where we are at today.
So I'm sure that has taken a lot of yours and your team's time. As we're finishing up 2017, looking into 2018, what kind of things do you see as top priorities for you and CSTA?
So Seed Synergy will probably still be the top priority. My board has indicated about the willingness for me to spend my time and CSTA budget on accomplishing those goals. I think plant breeding innovation is a big one. CSTA, Crop Life Canada, and the Canada Grains Council are sort of co-leading a coalition to discuss that, and we're going to be, I think, in a position pretty soon to have a draft policy on what we think how we think plant breeding innovation should be regulated, or to what degree in Canada. Access to crop protection products. We're going to have some critical decisions from the Pest Management Regulatory Agency on imidacloprid family of the neonicotinoids, and I think that our ongoing government advocacy strategy will be trying to getting those topics in front of our politicians and regulators, and then we get a call a week about international trade issues, so a lot of trade facilitation, and I think with the uncertainty around TPP-11, will Canada and China engage in a FTA? What's happening with NAFTA? I think that's something that we're going to watch really closely, and we'll take concerted effort from the staff.
Awesome. So just a quiet year.
Yeah. Walk in the park.
Perfect, Dave. Thanks very much for your time. Great to chat with you.
Thanks, Shawn. Appreciate it.